Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Ron Phillips here. Another exciting episode. Man, I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much for your comments, your reviews, the emails that we get at invest@rpcinvest.com. Man, I don't think a lot of times we realize just how important those things are to people. I was talking to a friend of mine this past week, and sometimes the thank yous and the reviews, the positivity comes in at the exact right time. I mean, this guy, he's a coach, and he had been, helping some people through some really tough stuff, which weighs on a person. It's a heavy weight. In addition to that, he has his own issues that he's dealing with, and he has his business that he's dealing with, and all of these things. All these things weigh on a person. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Everybody experiences this. And I think a lot of times at the point where the weight is getting to be too much. And anyway, my friend he said, man, I got this call from somebody who just wanted to thank me for, this random thing that tied into his business, which is where a lot of the weight was coming from. Right. And anyway, he mentioned in passing something that I think happens a lot more than maybe we think it does. And that is that comment, or that phone call in his case, came in at the exact time he needed to hear it so that he could continue carrying the weight. And I think that happens a lot more than people realize. And I think you, in your life, if you think it through, you think back, whether it's in your business or whether it's in your family or whether just friends, somebody says something at a time when you needed to hear it. And it was critically important to hear right at that time. And so I wanted to thank you for the emails and the things that you send to us, because that stuff happens for us too. And so today I wanted to talk about reviews, because I think this is something that in business, as business owners, we kind of chase these reviews. We want Google reviews. We want good stuff because we want this proof out there in the marketplace that what we're doing is helping people. It's changing lives. That's what most people in business want to be known for, right? Is helping people, changing lives, doing things that matter. And I read reviews sometimes and I look up, and you do too. I mean, if we want to go somewhere we haven't been, or if we want to buy something we haven't ever bought, we read reviews. And most of the time, if a company has like a 4.6 or 4.8, we assume that that's good, And I think the next level, you start to look at how many reviews they have for their 4.6 or their 4.8. And at that point, I don't know if you do this or not, but I just go to the bad ones. I go straight to the 1-star reviews and I start reading them. And I try to get a sense for, would this place be 5 stars if it weren't for the idiots that left the 1 stars, or are these 1 stars the real ones and then these other ones are kind of fake? And I'm trying to figure this out, right? I guess ask yourself how important business reviews are. I think they're kind of important. And I remember a few years ago, Yelp was the big deal, right? Because you couldn't do anything about these horrible reviews, and people were just leaving ridiculous reviews that were completely irrelevant. And I don't know if you actually review businesses. I rarely review businesses. I don't think I have ever left a bad review on a business. I just don't go back. If I had a bad experience, I just don't go back. I don't feel the need to badly or poorly review a business. But I have left positive reviews and really glowing reviews for places that I really, really like and that have done an exceptional job, done something out of the ordinary good. So I asked, do you leave reviews? I don't leave very many. I mean, it has to be pretty exceptional for me to actually leave one. But this is the thing that kind of got me a little bit fired up and kind of interested in this today is I think there's a lot of people who just leave bad reviews. I think that that's all they do. They just leave bad reviews. There's not really a reason for it. There's this place in Charleston that my family loves. Like my wife and I go eat at this bar and grill way too much. Like, I mean, it's a little absurd. The place is called Burton's. If you're ever in Charleston and you're not going to eat downtown, Burton's is a fantastic restaurant. All of the servers, like all of the staff from top to bottom are phenomenal people. Like I don't think you could have a bad experience at Burton's. The food is amazing. The people are amazing. They hire really, really well. And I'm in Burton's the other day. This is actually a few weeks ago. My wife and I are in there having food, and these people came in, and they were not happy people. Out of the gate, like Jump Street, they were not happy people. And they sat down, and I don't know why, but these people, like they were kind of right in my peripheral vision, and I kind of was watching what was going on. And maybe they had been there a little longer than you would want to be there if you were coming in for a quick bite. I don't know. Maybe they told the hostess that they really needed to eat fast or whatever. They weren't sitting there that long. It really wasn't that long. And a couple of waiters had gone by because they weren't working that particular table, so they didn't stop and ask them if they wanted anything. And they were getting more visibly upset. They came in as those kind of angry people anyway. And it was it wasn't very much longer before they just got up. They were like, now they're pissed. They got up. They hadn't gotten any service. And they just walked out. And on the way out, they kind of walked by, and the hostess who had, seated them noticed that they were leaving. They said, and, asked what was the problem. And they just kind of turned around and said, "Hey, nobody served us." And then they like kind of snapped at her. And so I think she kind of nervously smiled. Don't know what to say at that point. They were pissed and left, just left the restaurant. And remember, she kind of looked our direction, and I just kind of gave her a shoulder shrug, like, "Don't worry about it. People are going to be that way sometimes." And I decided to look up a day later. I decided to just look up and just see if these people had actually left a review. And they did. They did. They left a review. 1 star. Can't comment on the food as no employee, and it's all capital, no employee approached us to provide menus or ask for our order. Now, I know they had menus because you get the menus when you come into the restaurant. They give them to you when you sit down. So the hostess had already given them the menus. So it's just not true. Or ask for our order. Now, they actually didn't ask for their order. It says they waited 10 minutes, which is not true. And then they left. Upon departure, the same hostess recognized that we had just entered, and I explained we'd have to come back when they're not so busy. And she left. Now, I didn't hear what they had said, but if they said that is kind of funny because they weren't busy. There was almost nobody there. So none of this was true, but he gives them a 1-star review, which I think is so funny. And actually it's funny and not funny all at the same time, because none of that actually happened. This person was just angry at the world that day, or maybe just all the time. I don't know. But business reviews. Now, I ask you, do you leave business reviews? And if you do you leave as many good as you leave bad? If you're a person who only leaves bad reviews, then I would challenge you to leave 2 times as many good reviews as you do bad reviews. Because you definitely, I know I do. I have way more good experiences than I have bad experiences. And in a restaurant, if I had that kind of experience, rather than sit there and get irritated, I would have just gone up and asked the hostess, "Hey, could you send our waitress or waiter over because we're in a little bit of a hurry?" And she would have said, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." And then the waiter or waitress would have been over there. It would have been no big deal. Instead, we turned it into a big, huge deal and then storm out of the restaurant and write a bad review. Now, on a day, I happen to know that Burton's reads all the reviews. I read all of our reviews. And occasionally we get a bad one. And I try to find the truth in some of the bad reviews that are just absurd, which I know on their face are absurd because I know who they're talking about. There's no way that person treated them that way. It's impossible. Now, there are a few people on the team who might treat somebody. I am one of them. If you come at me, I might treat you in a less than kind way. You guys probably could figure that out from the podcast. But there's plenty of people on my team who I know for a fact would never do that. They just don't have it in them. So when you write a review about that particular person and you say something like that, then I still try to find the truth in there. So I got to figure the manager at Burton's reads all of these reviews, trying to find a kernel of truth in here. And the only kernel I can think of is that, well, it probably was a little too long before they got some service. It's the only thing I can figure. But what if that came on the day when that manager was having a uniquely tough day? I'm just saying. I came on the podcast. I thanked you guys for your emails because they come in a timely manner, and I promise you they do. Sometimes they come in and they hit just right. Keeps you going as a business owner when there's a lot of stuff you deal with. And the other side of this is true as well. I think if my buddy had gotten a call on that particular day from somebody who wanted to complain about something, especially something innocuous that is really not that big of a deal, it could have had a really, really bad effect on how he saw his business and the future of his business. And I think that has to happen to a lot of businesses and a lot of people. And you can take this out of the business world and just take it into kindness in general with your family, with your friends, with people you don't know, with the poor people behind the Delta counter that get screamed at because the weather's bad. I mean, you name it, all the people, right? On those days when someone's having a uniquely bad day, are we providing fuel to the fire, or are we providing something that quenches and alleviates pain? And was the experience so bad that I need to get online and light somebody up, give them a 1-star review? I happen to know for a fact that these two people, their experience was not even close to what they wrote down. Now, Burton's doesn't have very many bad reviews, but every single one of them, like if I kept reading these reviews, and this is what I look at when I actually look at reviews, they have 1,611 reviews, 4.6 stars. The next 1-star, by the way, the owner of Burton's replied to these people that I just read. Thank you for your feedback. We're sorry to hear about your visit. When you came in, did you check in with the host? We would like to discuss more about your visit. Please email us back at, and then gives the feedback. Your feedback is very important to us in order to adjust our training programs, always aiming for a better service. No response to that. Probably never emailed in because there's probably not a whole lot they can fix. Like, unless they try to fix this guy's attitude. Next one. Food was good, but not worth the price. Okay, well, that's relative. I mean, all right. I don't know where you're getting, scratch cooked food for less than Burton service, but that's fine. Service was horrible. Waiter did not check in on us once. I mean, that can't be true because they got their food, they got drinks. Anyway, I'm not even going to bore you with it. Waitress had no personality, didn't smile. I was alone, so maybe she thought I wasn't going to give him a good tip. Oh man, that's like completely in her head. Excuse me, this is a dude in his head. I mean, Where did he come up with that? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to like continue to read these 1 stars. They're all the same. All the same. It has something to do with someone who apparently wronged them at the establishment. And I'm not suggesting that should happen ever. I'm just suggesting it probably got blown out of proportion because they were having a bad day and they took it out on someone else. All I'm suggesting is that these reviews, as we write them, I encourage you to think about, okay, well, if that person was having a really, really rough day, is my review really about my experience there? Is it that bad? I mean, look, if I go into a restaurant and and I can see a rat, or if it's filthy, I mean, that's okay. I think probably she could tell somebody about that, right? But if the waitress didn't smile at me right, why in the world would we go out there and light the restaurant up, give them a 1-star review because one person didn't have the appropriate smile on that day? When I bet you, if that person who didn't get smiled at smiled really big and asked that waitress how she was doing that day, she probably would have smiled. She probably would have thanked them for caring. And then they might have gotten a 5-star review, although probably not, because these people will probably only ever give negative reviews. So I say all this to say, be careful with your reviews. They mean more than you think. The good ones, they mean more than you think. They do to me. When you guys thank us for doing the show, whether that's on the phone or whether it's via email, it means a lot. It does. When you guys take the time to go to Apple or whatever your podcast of choice service is and actually write us a review, just fair, honest review, it means a lot. It does. And so for people who love what they do, I love what I do. We love what we do at RP Capital. And for people who love what they do, these actually, they mean something. And so when we get a negative review, it hurts. Now, if we get a negative review and we deserve it, I'm like Burns, I want to fix it because I love what I do. I love the people that we work with, and I love helping people. And I think if you own a business, it's the same way. So just be careful with your reviews. And if you're going to leave reviews, and especially if you're going to leave negative reviews, I encourage you to leave more positive reviews than you leave negative reviews. Don't be the person who only leaves a negative review. Don't do that. Because every business sometimes isn't at their best. And every person who works for a business sometimes isn't at their best, including the owner, including like the high, all the way down to the bottom. Everybody sometimes isn't at their best. You sometimes are not at your best. So put yourself in the shoes of the business that you're reviewing. And my gosh, if you're out there and you're eating in a restaurant and a server doesn't smile, make it your job to help them smile that day instead of writing a bad review that says that the food was good, but your server didn't smile. Boy, that's sad. So be the change out there, people, because these things actually really are important. I appreciate you very much for the feedback that you've given us. You can continue to give that feedback. Invest at rpcinvest.com. Invest at rpcinvest.com. You can leave us a review, just an honest one. We would appreciate it. And, if you don't like the show, well, that's cool too. Just let us know. And I would love for you to send me an email if you don't. If there's something that you'd like us to cover on the show, I'd love for you to email us that as well. As you know, if you've been listening, we actually read those and we do the shows that you guys care about. So with all of that, until next week, get out there and make something happen.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.